Hey guys, today we're on to day 4 of our Arduino Assessment Part 2 revision, and we're looking at factorizing quadratics, including when a is not equal to 1, so including when there's a number in front of the x squared value, x squared term, sorry. And I know that a lot of you tend to skip these questions when you see that they're too difficult for you. You are not allowed to do that anymore. We need to be able to do this. So let's have a look at the inspiration for today's topic. Now, here, these are two questions where you're required to factorize. This first one says clearly factorize fully. And this person didn't really show any working, which makes me wonder if they somehow saw the answer and didn't know how to do the working for themselves. You need to show all your working, because I'm happy to give you the answers, but if you just have the answers and don't know how to get them, that's not going to help you when it comes to the exam. So here, I've done my working out to the side. This is the original expression that I've got here, 2y squared minus 72. Looking at those two terms, the first thing that really makes me nervous is having something in front of my y squared term. But I notice that I can factor that out, so I do that first. You see how that's going to make everything a lot easier. Now this person skipped out the step, and I'm not entirely sure why. If this was done on a separate page, don't do that. This is worth 2 marks. You need to show your working. So I factored that out, and what's left over here is a dots. I should put a space in here just to make this clearer. This leaves me with a dots, a difference of 2 squared. Y squared is obviously a squared term, and negative 36 is, well, 36 is a squared term, and negative, so minus, that makes this a difference. So I'm looking for 2 sets of brackets here, where in both brackets I need y and y to make y squared. To make 36, I need 6 and 6, but to make it negative 36, I need the opposite signs, positive 6 and negative 6. So that's how you should be showing your factorizing fully. And that was an easy example where it wasn't required to split the middle term. Always, 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 if there's a number in front of the x squared, or in this case y squared, always try to factor that out if possible. And here it was possible. Okay, so going on to this next example here, it doesn't say here that we have to factorize. However, to simplify a fraction, you need to find a common factor, a value or terms that you can divide both top and bottom by. And this person, oops, there's a mistake here. This person didn't show their working very clearly for how they factorized the numerator. This numerator, 2p squared minus p minus 15. I've rewritten it over here. They've directly written it as a bracket times a bracket. Now what we're practicing today is how do we get those brackets. And if I just left this up here as an example for you, I think a lot of people would really struggle with that and not know what to do. So we need to show how we can factorize a quadratic when there's something in front of the x squared term, or in this case p squared term. The thing I want to do is I want to try and divide that out like I did above. But can everything through here divide by 2? No, it can't. So what we need to do is we need to split the middle term. You may need to have to go back over your notes for this, but I'm going to go through it quickly right now. If we're splitting the middle term, we start by taking the first term and we multiply it by the last term. Just the letters, the numbers, the coefficients here. So I'm doing 2 times, oops, I should include the negative in that, 2 times negative 15. So 2 times negative 15, and that gives me negative 30. Okay? Then I'm trying to find 2 numbers which multiply to make negative 30, but they add to make the middle term, the term that I'm trying to split. And I'm thinking, what numbers multiply to make a negative? One's got to be positive, one's got to be negative. What kind of terms will add to make a negative? The bigger number must be the negative number. And then think, what numbers multiply to make negative 30? We could do negative 1 times 30, or negative 30 times 1. We could do 2 times 15, or 15 times 2, right? Choosing which one's going to be the negative one. But I found that my numbers are 5 and 6. They multiply to make 30, and 5 minus 6 makes negative 1. So this p term up here, the negative p, I'm just splitting it into 2 terms down here. Negative p is the same thing as positive 5p minus 6p. That would be negative p. Okay, so I split the middle term, and now I'm looking at the first 2 terms here, and I am trying to find a common factor. So I'm factorizing by parts here. Factorize by parts. Okay, so I factored the p out of both of these terms. That leaves me with 2p in here, because p times 2p makes 2p squared. And I've just got 5 left in here, because p times 5 makes 5p. And then I look at the next two terms and I see that they have 3 in common, more specifically -3. And the sign here is important because I need the values inside the bracket to be the same as the values inside this bracket, including the signs. So here I've got 2p plus 5. I don't want in the other brackets we have -2p minus 5. So I factored out the -3. -3 times 2p would make -6p, and -3 times 5 would make -15. The second set of brackets matches in both cases, so I can group them back together. So I'll put here regroup, regroup, and that's what I've done. I've taken the term that's in front of both of these brackets and I put them together here. I've got p minus 3 in one bracket, and in the other bracket I've got the bracket that I see repeated up above, 2p plus 5. Okay, because this is the p times 2p, p times 5, just like it would be down here, p times 2p, p times 5. And it is -3 times 2p, -3 times 5, just like it would be down here, -3 times 2p, -3 times 5. So that's regrouping. So this is now factorized, and I've shown the working of how I've done that. So that's how this person's got this over here. Now, seeing that this is factorized here, and they factorized the bottom down there, and I'm willing to accept that. They just saw that they had a common factor of p, so they put the p out front, and inside they've got p minus 3, because p times p would make p squared, and p times -3 would make -3p. So that was okay. They can also look at this fraction and see that there's a common factor, a bracket that's the same on the top as on the bottom, p minus 3. So I can divide both top and bottom by p minus 3, which will leave me with just the 2p plus 5 on the top, and getting rid of the p minus 3 on the bottom. P minus 3 divided by p minus 3, that would cancel out and make just p on the bottom. So our answer is 2p plus 5 over p. Now, I really hope that whoever's work this is, they understand these steps, but the examiner needs to see it. For 3 marks, you really need to show that you understand what you're doing and you follow the correct steps. Okay, so once again, I'll provide you with the answers, but you've got to show your own working. Otherwise, really, there's no sense in just having a bunch of answers on the page. Okay, so starting with this now, we're going to start with some examples where you do not need to split the middle term. Try factoring out the a if you can. If it's not possible to factor out the a, we need to split the middle term, but here are some examples where there is no need to split the middle term. So reading between the lines here, always try to factor out a. If you can't factor out a, split the middle term. I'm telling you don't need to split the middle terms, which must mean that you can factor out a in these examples. A here is 3. I could factor the 3 out. And then the remaining quadratic, I factorize like normal. 2 sets of brackets, x in one, x in the other, find your 2 numbers. Here as well, I can factor out a. Here a is 2, so factor out the 2. The remaining quadratic, you need to factorize like normal. Same thing with all of these. These ones, you do not need to split the middle term. You can factor out the first coefficient, so I can factor out the 5 here. I can factor out the -1 here. I can factor out the 5 here. Oh, here I can't factor out the 5. It's in the wrong order. It's the x squared term. It's written in the wrong order. The x squared term should be first, so it should be like the one above. You can factor out the -1. Okay, once you've done those, and do them for yourself, you've got the answers down here, but there is no point peeking at the answers before you finish. You don't get any bonus marks, you don't get any bonus knowledge just by writing random answers down. Okay, but once you finish that, also listed in Schoology is another exercise for you to do based on splitting the middle term. Now here's your reminder of how to split the middle term, so another example that you can go through. Here's the quadratic. You can multiply a and c together, so 2 times -6, and then look for 2 numbers that multiply to give this product and add to give the middle term. So it's all explained again here for you, just like I've just done. But the other exercise that you need to do, you must do this, is factorizing by quadratics by splitting the middle term. I posted this for you on Schoology. It's got the answers as well, so once again, there is no point in just copying the answers. You need to show the working and you need to make sure you are able to do it. But let's have a look at that now. So that is this file here. All of these quadratics have some number in front of the x squared term, or in this case p squared, in that case n squared. And in all of these examples, there is no way to factor that value out. So I can't do 3 and then put the rest in brackets. So I'm going to need to split the middle term in all of these examples. Okay, there's plenty of exercises for you to, or questions that you can do for practice, and I recommend you do as much as you possibly can. Down below I've got the answers. Let's not look there until we're ready. Okay, now when you're doing these questions, you're going to need to copy the ones that you do over to your slide. So I'm going to use my snippet tool, new. I'm going to copy like this. It puts it into my snipping tool page. I'm putting Control C so I've got it copied, and then I'm going back to my dream assessment and I am going to put that in a new slide here. So I'm adding a new slide. It's a blank slide. Here I'll put my question. Come out very small, so I'll make it bigger so I can read it. And I'm going to write here day 4, splitting the middle term. That way I can see which question you're working on and if you're having any problems. Now down here I can go ahead and start working this out, so I can say A times C equals, and I can show my working. 3 times 5, 3 times minus 5, sorry. Okay. So I'm showing my working, and eventually I'm going to end up with an answer, brackets, something times brackets, something else. And just to make that clear, I might put that in bold, or I might even go through and highlight it. Okay, so I know this is a lot of work. I know that it's quite difficult, but please, please don't skip any of the hard ones. Let me know if you need help, and we can work together over here. Okay, I am expecting to hear from you. Have a good